Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Jeff Oliverio, and let's queer up the USA view. Texas judge strikes blow to LGBTQ workplace rights. Protection against LGBTQ workplace discrimination may be in jeopardy, as a federal judge in Texas has just taken a sledgehammer to queer workplace protections, striking down key parts of Title VII in a ruling that defies the U.S. Supreme Court. Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk, a far-right Trump appointee with a record of siding with extremist legal arguments, ruled that Title VII no longer protects LGBTQ Americans from workplace discrimination. That flies directly in the face of the Supreme Court's 2020 ruling in Bostock v. Clayton County, which found that discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity is, by definition, sex discrimination. The case was brought by the state of Texas and the Heritage Foundation, a group deeply tied to Project 2025. Project 2025 is a radical right-wing plan that openly targets queer rights. They took issue with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's guidance that employers can't discriminate based on gender identity or sexual orientation. Kacsmaryk sided with them. In his ruling, he upheld a Texas Department of Agriculture policy forcing employees to dress based on their so-called, quote, biological gender, stating that, quote, men wear pants and women may wear dresses, skirts, or pants. He also backed restroom bans for trans workers, calling these policies neutral and non-discriminatory. His logic is that policies apply equally, even if they erased transgender identity entirely. Kacsmaryk has also argued that harassment protections don't apply to LGBTQ people, stating that Title VII only prevents firing someone for being gay or trans, not subjecting them to other forms of mistreatment. That contradicts both the spirit and the letter of Bostock, which recognize LGBTQ identity as inherently protected under federal law. The ruling orders the EEOC to scrub all references to sexual orientation and gender identity from its Title VII guidance. That means federal employment policy can no longer define sex discrimination to include anti-LGBTQ+ bias. This marks one of the most aggressive judicial rollbacks of queer civil rights in recent history. For queer Americans in the workplace, the stakes just got even higher. Well, that's an understatement. The world that we're living in, unfortunately, they're going to test every single thing that they can to make everything have to be relitigated all the way up to the Supreme Court. As we hope that the Supreme Court takes some protection against decisions, A, that they've already made, and B, that are, easily reflective in the rulings that have come before them. However, anything is up for grabs at this point. And the pain that we're going to suffer as the LGBTQ right. and other groups that are going to come out of all of the ways they're testing these rules out there are going to be here for years to come, because right. this Supreme Court is most likely going to remain conservative for quite some time.
But some of the Supreme Court members who, appointed by Trump, voted in favor of the law in 2020.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're on our side. So
they were then, but I don't think they will be now.
Well, their jobs are secure for their life, right. So they don't have to worry about being up for election. So I hope that they did the right thing before, that they'll do the right thing again. I'm choosing to have hope that they will be reasonable people. There's a couple that will never go in that direction. But the other thing is, what a waste of the court's time. There are so many other issues that this country needs to grapple with. These are, culture wars. We don't need to be having them in Congress and Supreme Court. Deal with the important issues that need to be addressed.
But on their side, these are the important issues that need to be addressed.
They feel that if we fix the culture, everything else will fix itself.
And I come from whereas you choose to have hope, being a person of politics for so many years, I come from a very dark place. I think the ringer that they're running immigrants through right now in 2025 is going to turn the page in 2026 to be running the gay community through that ringer. I think we're going to see club raids up and down Wilton Manors Drive. We all know there's probably some behavior inside some of those places that shouldn't probably be happening. They're going to use that as a reason to shut down business after business after business. And even though some of those business owners will sue and get opened up again, the clientele is not going to come back.
It's interesting you talked about lawsuits, because I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking who, and as far as this ruling, where did it come from? Who had the balls to sue regarding sex discrimination firings in Texas because they were LGBTQ to even bring this to the table?
Right. Well, it's the conservative groups that
it's hard. It's so hard to have to take that, to walk that road. You have to feel really strongly about being willing to ruin your life to file a lawsuit like that in the first place.
I mean, I have to agree with Scott as well. I mean, if you saw just today, you know, the Justice Department is going to investigate Chicago for race discrimination, for hiring black people in Chicago. So if we can only use all of these, you know, these little things that are happening all around us, it's not just LGBTQ people, it's not just immigrants, it's everyone they're coming for, and no one is safe.
I think they're just mad because people are hiring friends of the best president we had in a long time.
This is
who have no business doing what they're doing.
It's going to be an ugly
ridiculous
time, and you know, I think that we all would do ourselves a good service by recognizing that and getting ready for it, because it's not going to be easy. There's not going to be some midterm election that bails us out and
We're
stuff
gonna have
like
to
that.
stick together.
This is 20 years from now, we'll still be fighting these same battles like it took from the 1950s until the 1990s to win some level of equality again. We're back in the 1950s. So 20 years, 30 years, maybe even 40 years, we're going to still have to be fighting these things. And
some people think that some of the things that are happening because of Project 2025 and the person who is living in the White House now will take centuries to put our country back the way it was in many ways.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, I like my expression. I've said it on the show before. They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds. And nobody ever gave the gay community anything. We fought for it every step of the way.
That's right.
And we know how to fight.
Yep.
And we'll continue to do that even as they try and
It's funny that you say that. I got an invitation to a big political gala recently, and it reminded me of maybe 20, 25 years ago, a similar gala when my girlfriend at the time and I were the first and probably the only gay people to ever go ahead and slow dance together at the event.
Wow.
And should we have to go through that all over again, where that's like a big, brave decision to do stuff like that?
Yeah.
But that's where we are, you know.
Yeah.
I've said to people that are my age and older who are like, "Oh, Scott, I'm tired. I fought these fights. I don't know how to." I said, "You don't have the luxury of just saying."
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, I only do the stuff I'm interested in. Well, not anymore.
Right. Anymore. And
Now we have to get our tennis shoes on and go to the freaking marches
young
again.
People now are getting inspired, and they're stepping up to the plate.
true.
That whole generation of nothing, you know, people, you know, after we got our local ordinances passed and marriage passed, there was such an apathetic sense, and there's like almost a generation of LGBT folks that aren't activists, never were, but young people now are starting to see what's happening, and they are becoming active, and they, you know, they are our future, and, you know, I choose to follow their lead now because
But young people voted more strongly for the current president in
not
this
our
last
young
election.
people.
Yes, they did.
LGBT young people.
LGBT young people voted.
We're going to have to go home and look that one
I
up,
don't know
aren't
about
we?
that, but
I mean, in general, LGBTQ people or young people didn't vote in the numbers that they should have voted in the first place. So across the board, whether they were LGBTQ or not. So I don't know that we can, you know, and people in general didn't come out to vote as well. You know, I think it's really important that we stay vigilant and vocal. One program that I'm going to just, you know, put out to the world, and SAVE is doing that here in South Florida, is they're putting together a program for people to go to speak at their local city commission meetings, and during citizen comments. And again, where that might be very, commonplace in Miami Beach, or might be commonplace in Fort Lauderdale or Wilton Manors, it's not so commonplace in North Miami, or in Hollywood, or in Pembroke Pines, or in Miramar.
Or in Lakeland, Florida,
yes.
or whatever.
So they're doing a training to teach people how to go and use your voice. It doesn't have to be an organized protest. It needs to be putting yourself on record as many in every place possible that you can, so that your voice is heard.
And like we heard on Sunday morning from Equality Florida, their goal is wherever the opposition has 1 or 10 people, we need to have 10 people for every 1 people that they have.
Yeah.
So their whole goal is about mobilization of people to go to these meetings and,
Flood
be
it.
there so in much larger numbers. And they're getting some results from that. So
20 and 30 years ago, that's how we did it down here.
Right. I know you're the cynic. I'm a little more hopeful. I'm a Libra, so I don't like conflict and whatnot. But I'm choosing to hope that the worst isn't coming, although I am prepared for it.
Right.
And I've been there before, so I've been in the trenches before. I don't want to go back in the trenches, but I will.
Right.
Well, stay ready, stay activated, and make sure you vote.
Yep.
And that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.